Greetings and salutations, fellow Harlemites. We're back to cover the season finale of the third of Marvel's Netflix miniseries, this time featuring a beloved fan favorite that we met in Jessica Jones. That's right, it's the original Hero for Hire. Join us as we delve into the honorable show and character as we finish unlocking Luke Cage.
Power Man!
Oh boy, that's right, Dragon. Only one more episode to talk about with Luke Cage. It's been a fun ride, my friend. It's been a fun ride. We've we basically have added one big in-joke to the repertoire of in-jokes with the Diamondback I'm Luke Cage cosplay thing. I think that's a keeper, Dragon. But more importantly, we've kind of dissected why Luke Cage, the second half of Luke Cage, while not necessarily as thematically strong as the first half, definitely holds its own, ties the season together very well, and we're going to get into all that with this very satisfying season finale, and a very unconventional season finale, I might add. All right, so let's get into it, Dragon. Let's start with the plot.
Okay, because this is the last episode, I figured I'd go a little special with the plot summation. So before I summarize the plot, I figured I'd let 70s Luke Cage summarize the plot.
Oh, no. Oh, God.
Here we go.
My final blackest, most badass moment is when I beat the knickerbockers off this jump that tried to steal my name. Who the hell are you, you jack-talking son of a gun? Now, you can call yourself Spider-Man. You can call yourself the Invisible Girl. You can stick a flag in your navel and call yourself the Spirit of 76. But if you ever call yourself King again, I will tattoo that name on your ribcage. Can you hear me?
Oh my God! Wow, yeah. Yeah, I'll add one, sure.
Okay. So in all seriousness, here's actually the
that was an inspired pull right there, Dragon. I give you a lot of credit, anyways.
Right. So here's what actually happens in the last outing of Luke Cage here. So Luke is battling.
That clip is like more accurate than people probably realize with what's going on with Diamondback and everything.
Essentially, yes.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, let's see. So Luke is battling Diamondback on the streets of Harlem, much like we ended at the very last second on the last episode. You know, we hinted at that.
Surprise, Carl! It's the Power Glove, Carl. It's so bad.
So Luke is battling Diamondback on the streets of Harlem. The people of Harlem are on Luke's side. Cops not helping initially. Luke, in the end, he utilizing his past, Luke defeats Diamondback, and in the aftermath, Luke and Claire willingly go with Misty to give a statement and clear Luke's name, winning the cops over. Meanwhile, Mariah Dillard gets off scot-free, having Candace killed. Yeah, that's the reason she got away scot-free, which is unfortunate. Poor Candace, R.I.P. Misty is fed. After that, Misty is just fed up with the system. She's left questioning it along with Claire as Luke is taken back to Seagate Prison to serve time for his crime and mainly his escape. Luke is he doesn't run. He doesn't go for like another additional episode of the series because he is no longer hiding. He faces his past so he can move forward in life, and that's the episode.
Okay, so speaking of the Power Man himself, let's get into Power Man's plight. And man, oh man, what a plight it is, Dragon. This is just it's a very unconventional season finale because unlike the other Marvel Netflix shows, basically the villain, I mean, not Diamondback, but what we've kind of argued has been the main antagonist for the whole season, kind of behind the scenes, is Mariah. She gets off scot-free. She's 1,000% cleared. And then Luke is just, completely screwed. It's just such a downfall. It's like I kind of get like my stomach kind of does flip-flops, Dragon, every time I see the officers walk in to arrest Carl Lucas. It's just a hard scene to watch. It's just like, no, come on, guys, come on. Can't you be like that one awesome cop from episode 12?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta admit, nothing beats that moment with Mike Coulter where he just, they enter and he knows who they are before they even introduce themselves. Just, gives that look like, oh, this is inevitability, and like his fear was always if he went down to the police, they would figure out. They would, do a background check of some kind, or they'd call him down for a reason. They'd find out who he was, and then these guys would show up. So, like, not even thinking of it in the moment because you're just like, so happy with Claire and everything. They enter, and it
They're
always
eating Chinese food. Come on.
exactly. It's just such a painful moment for Luke. But let's rewind a little bit from the beginning to get to that point here. So, Luke, where we started this episode, Luke is thrown into a third act battle with his arch enemy.
Yeah, I think the episode very smartly kind of got all the action out of the way within the first 15 minutes and didn't make the whole episode an action set piece. But in that action, we get a lot out of his character, specifically through the flashbacks and whatnot.
And of course, with the heroic, with the reluctant hero arc, we've had Luke. Basically, everyone's like trying to convince Luke that he's a hero in the previous episode. Now, this episode, he is thrown into the position of heroism again. He actually, again, as the episode gets to the ending, he realizes, yes, I am a hero, and I'm willing to do whatever a hero, what it takes to be a hero, essentially.
I hate to keep going with this comparison, Dragon, because I feel like I'm getting a little repetitive, but this is such a Spider-Man-esque scene, isn't it?
Well, I mean, Luke Cage is very much written with the great power, great responsibility in mind, and I think it works.
I'm talking more about like how the public is responding to him and cheering him on. Is this bad guy is beating him to shreds, and it looks like all hope is lost, but people are like, "Come on, Spider-Man, you got this." It's much the same way in Luke Cage's case.
Yeah. Well, let me throw this at you. I'm going to kind of compare Luke to kind of the Marvel combination that he is somewhat representative of. Because, going into this show, a lot of people have kind of, when people really analytically break down Luke Cage and kind of like how the show is kind of portraying Luke Cage, and bear in mind, this came out around the time of Civil War, so people are really kind of looking at characters and seeing how they would fit into either the Captain America mindset or the Iron Man mindset.
Sure.
Which side, like whose side would they be on? Interestingly, this is like kind of complete happenstance. Mike Coulter, when he went to the movie, everyone was like encouraged to wear ribbons, like a blue ribbon or a red ribbon, for Iron Man, and he wore both. And here's the thing. Let me see if I can flesh it out a little bit. I'm not saying again that was just like kind of happenstance because Mike Coulter just didn't want to take a side because he didn't want to be everyone questioning him.
Like something that Luke Cage would do though. Like Luke Cage is like, man, you both crazy.
In a way, yes. And of course, let's break down what we've experienced with Luke because this is the last episode after all. So at this point, most definitely, Luke, he's always been kind of characterized as kind of the Captain America of Harlem. So personality-wise, he's very Cap-esque. He's just kind of a nice guy, means well, likes to help people, that sort of thing. Very does the responsible thing, which absolutely he's willing to do because he is his brother's. Well, he is very specifically not his brother's keeper. We'll get to that later. But I mean, specifically, Stryker is his responsibility, much like Cap would have to kind of contend with.
Kind of like Cap's equivalent would be Bucky.
Exactly. It's his responsibility to help his friend out. In this case, it's his responsibility to stop someone who is so tied to his past and making other people suffer because of him. So with that, characterized as Captain America, and he's very much looked at in an Iron Man capacity. Because think about it, especially in this episode, he's facing a very Iron Man and Iron Man 2-esque threat here where, Luke Cage is on the streets and people are upgrading or trying to compete.
Not to mention he's fighting against hammer tech.
Exactly. I'm saying, there's definitely a lot of Iron Man 2 with that. In mind. It's also kind of like kind of an ironmonger, like someone ripping off the technology, someone ripping off Luke Cage's power set to go up against him in the end, kind of like an ironmonger thing. But at the same time, what I'm really getting is it's the arms race of Justin Hammer and Tony Stark with Luke Cage. Just someone with these powers is on the street. The society has to counteract that, like all the political discussion going on, kind of like the Iron Man 2 question.
Right.
And of course, he is quite literally in the Hulk position of he's powered and he's destroying Harlem with a battle.
Yeah.
I was saying it's kind of a great kind of combination of like these heroes that Luke Cage is kind of entering the pantheon of in this episode.
It kind of makes me wish that we'd actually get the Netflix stuff crossed over to the movies, Dragon.
Again, I'm holding hopes for one of these Avengers movies to pull that trump card. So let's see. So importantly, so with the Battle of Harlem here, we notice with Luke's plight here is that people I definitely identify and root for Luke, which is awesome. And it's a big confidence builder that is fueling that heroic fire. And again, throughout this fight, he kind of realizes, again, as everyone's cheering for him, that's the moment where he realizes, it's like halfway the point where he realizes, I believe in myself as a hero. I'm not just, going to
He
be
at
wholly
least
turned
knows
down.
that he's a hero to these people. You know what I mean? He can at least accept that much, even if he can't accept it from within himself.
Essentially, he's accepting his place as a folk hero. That's the main thing. He's
Right,
accepting
right.
he's accepting the folk hero-esque of it all, and by the end, he's accepting like the true heroism. The true heroism at the very end, where he kind of takes the sacrificial. He's the sacrificial lamb, so to speak.
Sure.
Let's see. So to me, all that fight is really fueling his fire. That's the main takeaway from that fight. He's starting to see himself as a hero, and that he's run away from ever since Jessica Jones onward.
Hmm.
And it's a very inspiring. We see in the episode, one of my favorite moments, which we'll get down to later on, is that he's very inspiring in taking away what gets him to this inspiring point with everyone cheering Luke, 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 is the fact that he's absorbed Harlem's culture and he is representative of that culture. He's later on he's really going on about like the importance of Harlem, what Harlem represents to so many people, and he's taking on, much like the intro. Like it's Luke Cage with Harlem kind of on his body.
I mean, it's definitely the kind of full circle quality to the whole season with his arc, where, as you said with the intro, it's Luke was very much kind of the reluctant hero. He didn't even want to, he was very reluctant to even go out and use his powers, and then for a period of time he wanted to leave Harlem, but this is kind of him coming back to his roots and kind of going all the way with it.
Yeah, and of course, like a hero, he sacrifices what he wants most, which is his freedom, because this action of going up against Diamondback and going down to the station. Really nice scene here, where again he's willing to go forward now. He's going forward. He's doing the things he's feared of. He's no longer going to be kept down by fears of his past coming back to haunt him. Like we have a scene here where he goes to the station with Claire to turn himself in, essentially.
Clear things up. I haven't done anything that I've been charged with. The dashcam video that everyone's talking about, I'd like to provide some context. Would you like that to try? I know really good. I'm not guilty of anything. I'll speak for myself.
I love that, by the way, that we could have had, we have Daredevil brought up yet again, and I like that he's just
waiting in the shadows. He's waiting in the shadows.
It is really cool that it's really cool that we had a logical reason that Daredevil wouldn't show up, because we keep bringing up Daredevil a lot of the time in these shows, because of course he's very much a fan favorite. At the same time, he's always kind of the logical go-to, because that was the wonderful thing about him.
I'd say he's also kind of like the most famous of the. I mean, not even in the fandom level, just in terms of in universe, he's probably the most famous of the four.
He's honestly the only one really with a name.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. And also, it's always the practical, cool thing of the Marvel Universe, where hey, you need a lawyer, Matt Murdock.
Right.
It's always kind of that, and I love that Luke, he has nothing to fear, and that's the point of him going down the police station. He's he has nothing to fear, and he's going to speak the truth. He doesn't need a lawyer in this case, and it makes all sense in the world. Then, of course, again, the ultimate consequence for that very public battle, the inevitable happens. He is taken away from his new home. That, again, the minute he accepts Harlem truly, deep down, accepting being the folk hero of this town, which is kind of the ultimate acceptance of being, tied to, it's like how a superhero is tied to a city. He is tied to this section of.
Yeah, in much the same way that Spider-Man is tied to Queens. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The minute he
tied to Brooklyn.
Exactly, the minute, one of the boroughs, so to speak.
Sure.
And the minute he accepts that, the minute he accepts that, he has no fear. The minute he has no fear, and he's so comfy. He's thinking, what's the next step? The past, shows up and takes him back, and he faces the unjust music, which goes a little something like this.
You're under arrest for your unlawful escape from Seagate prison. What are you doing? Only he knows. Says who? Says me. I'm done running.
Sorry, Mr. Cage. I'm going to recommend the New York City DA's office drop all charges against you. I have done all I can. Thank you for all you've done for us. Luke is innocent.
Not arresting Luke Cage. Arresting Carl Lucas.
Who called you?
Once a city council woman identified Luke Cage as Carl Lucas on television, our office received numerous calls. The
I mean, it's definitely a sad thing to happen to Luke Cage, most definitely.
Yeah, one last thing before we move on. I just really like the deliberate acting choice on Coulter's part, just the incredibly stoic way in which he says, okay, like 3 or 4 times in the episode. You know what I mean? It's like the one-word delivery. It's like, okay.
I mean, let's just to cover something a little bit here, too. It's just, you know, it's like, it's so fascinating that Luke, in the end, he uses his past. He goes against Pop's teachings a little bit. He doesn't completely lose sight of it, but, you know, he uses the past to win the day. And it counters Pop's message slightly, but it improves it in a way. Like he's taking on what Pop's always for, which of course the meaning still, that's the thing I've loved ever since he said in like the first episode. Always for. It's such a great kind of reoccurring phrase that Luke to kind of base his character arc on.
Oh yeah.
And in the end, Luke made that his own. It's kind of like showing that he's become the new Pops in many respects. And little backwards, then forward, always. It's a beautiful thematic thing in this episode, and that compels him to face the music, even though it's going to take him back a ways. Not only just like literally it's going to take him back, but at the same time you take him back to that injustice that he's been running away from.
Mm.
And with that, it's like the moment he accepts being a hero, he's sent away like a villain, but with dignity. We have in that last scene in the episode here.
Sure.
Like just a hunch. It's a good one. It's actually mine. What we reading before? Some West Coast shit. Michael Connelly. You ever read Harry Bosch? We'll have some time to read that. Oh, well, I'm ready. I was innocent before, and I said no. I've got work to do.
He's got work to do. Like that's a triumphant guy you're going to root for right there. Like he knows he's going to be set back, but he's not going to waste time. He's not going to be wallow in self-pity. He's going to be working on. He's going to be planning while he's in there. It's a hero for you folks.
Yeah, I just love how just the entirety of Luke's character in this series can be summed up in one word, and that word is, of course, always.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that comes back so much in this episode. The always. I love that the always has been in the season so much. Did you add one?
Yeah, I added one. Yeah.
Good. All right. Yeah. So it's again, he goes away with dignity. That's the big takeaway. I mean, while he is like he's the only one that really doesn't get what he wants. Well, I mean, like our main guy doesn't get what he wants, and the villains get absolutely everything they wanted.
Mm. Okay, let's move on to deconstructing Harlem. Starting with Diamondback.
Ah, yes. Good old Diamondback.
So, as we said, folks, like, the appeal of Diamondback is kind of the opposite of Cottonmouth, where Cottonmouth is just this incredibly literate, like very Shakespearean character. Diamondback is just like classic, like 1960s, 1970s, just hardcore, ridiculous comic book bad guy, especially in this episode. In this episode, he just very much fulfills that purpose. I mean, he's just like a catchphrase spewing machine in this episode.
Yes, he is. So, oh boy, is he. It's sorry, I think I wanted to start here. I think it's really interesting how we started this episode with Diamondback. Just kind of, I want to hit on the flashback for a moment here because
of course.
We see. It's very interesting that we see, and I love that's kind of one of the last moments we had with Diamondback. I love we're not just like, it would have been cool regardless, but I like that we kind of add more to it here where we don't start the episode off directly where it left off. We start with this flashback that's very telling of where our characters kind of jettisoned from, and like while they're now in complete opposition to where they were as young men. Where Diamondback, they've changed so much. Where he was the smart fighter, who was like, he has the fighting skills, he has like, the strategy. He's telling Carl, look, don't charge into a fight blind, just out of like, out of pettiness, just like out of like yeah.
Diamondback is basically just saying, yeah, exactly. He's kind of just preaching against revenge to Carl, and as you said, that's just so radically goes against everything that has been built up about these two up until this point. It's just such an interesting kind of role reversal, and in a way, they kind of taught each other both their good sides and their bad sides. You know what I mean? Like through their actions as kids growing up together.
And we see Diamondback, he was tempering his rage because, while he was, the minute, and I'll play the clip for you here, is that when Carl has this really telling line where Carl says, I'm a Lucas, I have to defend my name. Again, Luke's name, very name-centric even back then, but at the same time, he's trying to live up to a father who's, just really perpetually not a good guy. And he's living up to, he's living up to the name of the father, and at the same time, the minute he says that name, I love this on the rewatch, Willis Stryker takes a pause.
Oh yeah,
because he's processing it, and he just he's factoring in like how he feels about it. And then here's the thing I didn't catch on the rest. So, like, he directly right after that he's punching with a lot of fury, like as he's like coaching Carl like on the side. He's punching, and he's just like he's really punching a bag or something. Again, venting his rage, which means back in the day he didn't hold it against Carl as passionately until his mother died.
Well, yeah, and as we kind of saw with that whole story, the mother dying was kind of like the catalyst to everything going wrong in his life. But yeah, as you said, it's a very interesting kind of directorial choice, a very subtle choice on the part of Diamondback, on the part of the young actor with the with unleashing his rage like that, kind of venting his frustration.
And very well cast young actors too. They do look like young versions of those characters.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds a little something like this.
Why you doing this, girl? Because some fool smacked you up in front of a bowling alley? You better get yourself killed. I'm going to get this dude, Willis. It's about respect. The city champs, girl. My arm, your legs. Got nothing to prove, right? You're running around here acting stupid and get yourself hurt. Who would understand? I can't let it slide. I'm a Lucas. Daddy ain't signing off on this. Go on. I still got you in my corner. Always. And I'm not alone. I'm ready. You ain't ready, Carl. Surprise, Carl. This is amateur made just for you. You still ain't ready.
Again, with that scene, we see where that's been building to, and just Diamondback is completely not following his own words at any stretch, and that's kind of led him down what I call this Icarus path. So it's taking Diamondback's own words about Icarus, the comparison to.
Yeah, it's so ironic. Like Diamondback is basically like not practicing what he is preaching. He's like a great example of a villain like that.
Yeah. He's just lost sight of himself. Again, that's the thing about Diamondback. A lot of people don't get is that he goes crazy and loses his way as he goes on. He is very much Icarus. He has donned he's quite literally donned fake wings to combat his godlike brother. I think that's kind of fascinating.
Yeah, and as I said, I think the whole the bottle episode in episode 11 was kind of the the proof in the pudding of Diamondback kind of slowly slipping into insanity. Like, we wouldn't have that whole subplot with Shades if that wasn't what the writers were going for with him.
Exactly, and let's talk about the suit a little bit here. Of course, the suit's really cool, and just him dying.
As I said, Dragon, I said like it might be my favorite suit in all of the Netflix shows. I really like this costume.
It is really sweet, I gotta say. I mean, again, the practicality for me is like what might put over other suits for me, just the practicality. I mean, I still really like the second Daredevil suit. I really like that one. But I mean, I just love the logic of Melvin Potter. He makes the suits and all the. I love the explanations a little bit more than just kind of the end result. I don't know. I really like that part of it. But yes, I mean, it's of course it looks super faithful to what he looks like. And at the same time, this suit is just is like the most desperate on the nose, again, comic book fashion of trying to compete with and surpass Luke by any means necessary. And what's kind of interesting, kind of last line we had in the last episode.
It's almost kind of like the closest we get to my fantasy of Diamondback cosplay is Luke.
in a way. And again, just where they're moving forward, kind of parallel comes here is that, of course, at the end of the episode, Luke wants to they both want to move forward, and for him to move forward, he needs to kill Luke, or for Luke to move forward, he needs to stop Diamondback. It's kind of like they're moving forward, but they're going to collide in the process of moving forward past each other.
Hmm.
And just where the fight is, just with, again, I love the logic is where he has the same strength as Luke, he's bulletproof as well, so he's as mano a mano as he's going to get with Luke Cage, and yet what he has over Luke is he has, as we saw in that flashback, and it's so wonderfully structured here, he has the skill and a way of using Luke's strength and against him, because what he does here is that, and this is the thing on the rewatch I was so fascinated by him, so I love looking into the suit and finding this out because it makes the events of the episode make even more sense, and I love it. Mm-hmm. His suit, the hammer tech suit, absorbs the kinetic energy. So anytime Luke punches him or anyone shoots him, you're going to hear the suit give off a noise, and that's what's powering his super strength. That's what powers the
right.
gloves.
I caught that sound. Good sound design there. Yeah.
And that's a really cool detail, and I love that because literally Luke giving into giving into like this fight, and basically giving into anger or just like the need to fight his brother with fisticuffs is it's fueling the fire of this age-old grudge. And I love that him stopping that is kind of what's in the end is Diamondback's undoing.
Sure.
And of course he has no regard for Harlem, or it's just the whole deconstructing Harlem at all here. He has no regard for
he is
Harlem.
literally deconstructing Harlem. He's been doing that for like 2 episodes now.
And it's so great that we see that so literally here, because he's obviously in direct contrast to the rules of Switzerland with the barbershop. At the first place he destroys, and then takes it to the streets. He's destroying property left and right.
I think all the critics against Man of Steel just would not like this at all.
I mean, to be fair, you got a sense there'd be more aftermath here than there was with that.
Yeah.
So, he wants to tear down, again, you want to look in the grand scheme here, he wants to tear down Luke's present with the past, and in a way, this to me, I thought was really cool. He's doing so with a dark perversion of the future with that suit, with a suit designed to battle and kill Luke. So it's like, hey, I'm going to destroy this life you're trying to have, me, a remnant of your past, and I'm just going to use like what is presumed to be the future of what kind of world you're making just existing in it. It's kind of a cool little connection there. And again, it's like moving forward in a dark context artificially. That's a very important operative word, because we're at the final note with where we go with Diamondback and where we kind of leave him for the upcoming seasons. That he did all of this with an artificial means, with a suit, with a piece of technology. And of course, his undoing is putting too much hatred into his attack, because basically he dries up the power of the suit where Luke's not hitting, which is such a brilliant way of defeating him. And he's defeated, and this is kind of where, again, our good guy loses, but our bad guy, in the end, while he is beaten, he gets what he wants.
Exactly what he wants, yeah.
It's kind of a Whiplash thing. It's kind of like, what if Whiplash kind of quit while he was ahead in Iron Man 2, instead of kind of going forward with it, where, he, in the end, for all the injustice in his life, again, we did feel sympathy for Diamondback's backstory. What happened to him was unfair. He is rewarded with Bernstein experimenting on him, most likely to replicate Luke's powers. Because again, there's also a genetic match, so there's a very good chance he could actually get Luke's powers.
Oh yeah. I'm not expecting anything less than that. Yeah,
which is surely going to fuel Luke's vendetta. I'm sorry, it's surely going to fuel Willis Stryker's vendetta even more. And of course, it's the grand scheme. What's so great about it is that with that suit, what it ultimately represents is that he is. It's essentially, that's what that suit is. That suit, it's like Hugo Strange being obsessed with Batman, where he puts on a bat suit. This is him put on his Luke Cage suit, and that's another cool little add to it. He's becoming Luke Cage as far as humanly possible.
Yeah, as much as we joke about the whole "I'm Luke Cage" thing, they very clearly pay that off with what happens with him.
And it's great that they were thinking of that. It makes all sense. Right. All of this, he's framing Luke Cage, and the reason fueling is he wants to become Luke Cage.
Him as a kid, his whole oh man, Luke must have it so good. It all stems from that.
Yeah. All right. So let's move on to. I got it.
Okay.
Detective Mercedes Knight.
Oh dear. Yes.
Detective Mercedes. I love it. I love it.
Mercedes Knight.
Pull the actual pop clip for that one.
Man, oh man, poor Misty this episode. I mean, she just gets put through the ringer of like, literally in the span of like a minute or so, she goes from the best break in her career to, oh crap, my prime suspect is out, and this guy that I know is innocent is being taken away. Wow. I mean, in a way, like Misty has it like I don't want to say she has it worse off than Luke, but man, it's like, between everything coming down on her, it's just a really, really harsh reality check for Misty in this episode.
And it's I think what makes it more tragic is what you said, Tig, is that Misty starts off the episode in pretty high spirits because, she has like kind of a trifecta of good stuff going on, but then everything goes to crap. Where in the beginning, she has Luke's back, she's going after the right people, everyone's on the same page, yay for her. She gets her closure with Diamondback, because and I love this bit here. I love that. I kind of forgot we had this line between her. It's been a while, and this is the second watch, and this great bit she has to the defeated Diamondback. Basically, echoes the same line that he used on her for when he's about to jokingly kill her. Yeah, basically like toying with her life and just saying, "Not even gonna move, not even a little bit. You're not gonna beg, not even a little bit. Here's how it goes."
Try to move. Not even a little bit. Take his tired, broken, false preaching asshole out of here.
Yay for Misty.
Yeah, and like I said, it's just kind of like, this fall from grace in the episode that just happens very suddenly. And not only that is, it is kind of on her what happens to her in a lot of ways. And Dragon, I gotta say, one of the unsung dynamics in this season that I've really warmed up to, especially in the rewatch, is Priscilla and Misty, because I really like how Priscilla and Misty kind of went full circle from, Priscilla was very kind of prickly towards her at the beginning, grew to like her, grew to respect her. They were kind of very much on the same page by the end. But then one mistake by Misty, one honestly very bad mistake that Misty probably should have known better than to make. And, and Priscilla's kind of, she's very disappointed in Misty. So it's a real world kind of dynamic you have there with, with your superiors in the workplace.
Yeah. I mean, again, I honestly, what I think it might be? I think deep down she's afraid that and not with Priscilla specifically, but I'm afraid maybe in the department. I'm saying now she has kind of the fear as a ghost in her head of cops being corrupt like Scarf in the back of her head now because of
I guess that could be yeah for sure. And
I think that fundamentally is why she didn't go with it, because she was afraid that Mariah was going to have eyes or like other Scarfs in the department.
Oh, you're right, and that was a legit fear with Mariah throughout the season. Mariah was kind of like, it's funny, Dragon, like with all of our Marvel Netflix villains, including Gal and Purple Man, and obviously, the big man himself, Kingpin, we have this whole running motif of like, you don't know who to trust. They could all be in the villain's pocket.
Oh, yes. And again, ultimately, Missy, again, like she's developed. Speaking of just trust and like who you can trust. I mean, now she's developed trust with Luke. For Luke, they have to go down there, make a statement instead of running away from her after all this time. Again, she's so confident. She's going in the interrogation room. She starts off that scene just like, and this is kind of cool. We kind of pay off all of her reconstructing the crime scene, looking at the photographs in this great.
I love that visual motif. That's one of the coolest things this series does on a visual level.
And it's great that we worked that into the last episode. It's also a nice way we get a last glimpse at Mahershala Ali as Cotton Mouth. You can see him in his murder scene. And it's so sad. Like, again, she's at the top of her game here. Like, this is the happy ending that we're expecting here. Missy's gonna nail Mariah Dillard. We're gonna
basically the end of Psycho.
Kind of. Well, again, Psycho's not exactly a happy ending.
No, I know, but you know what I mean? It's just in the sense of like, okay, like the last 10 minutes of this movie is us laying out what happened to the audience.
Right.
Anyways.
So just the rug being pulled out from under her with the death of Candace, which again, one, she this girl trusted her, and secondly, just the fact that Mariah's getting away with it. Well, it's well, of course, later Luke's going to be going down unnecessarily for other things. It leads to a complete disillusionment with the system, and especially after Luke's arrest is kind of affirming her feelings on it. And the scene goes a little something like this, where basically she's airing her thoughts out to Priscilla here. And again, Priscilla's always kind of represented a version of Misty that she could be in the future. Like if Misty adhered to the system, if she didn't go through this story with Luke, she could very much so end up like Priscilla down the line, had she not met Luke Cage.
Sure.
Which wouldn't have been a bad thing, but at the same time, I think she's more developed for having gone through a thing with Luke, which goes a little something like this. Aaron, out the feelings of that, Priscilla.
Ain't worth the 10 it's turning on if Mariah Dillon can just walk out of here after what she's done. The system is broken, Priscilla. You're one of the finest detectives I have ever seen, but you have got to learn that there is no getting around the system. You must work with it. Candace should have been in protective custody. She should have been here, and I should have known about it. Mariah Dillard walks out of here today because of you. Because you didn't trust our system. Because you didn't trust me.
And that's the deepest cut of all, because you didn't trust me. Because, I mean, she's hurt by it, too.
Yeah, and like I said, that's just a good kind of full circle narrative we have going on there where, at the end of the day, while Priscilla kind of was introduced as maybe someone who was a little bit nefarious and not on Misty's side, she was one of the strongest allies Misty had, and Misty, realized that when it was too late.
Yeah, and just looking at this grand scheming, kind of what we saw with Misty throughout the season is that, again, the whole arc of her story is that she understands Luke's POV, his perspective, as well as Harlem. Again, just kind of the Harlem of it all here. Again, she's very much kind of someone who wasn't just like kind of discerning, I like what Luke Cage does. Someone seeing up close what Luke Cage does and what he goes through, just understanding. They eventually, in the beginning, she's skeptical. She doesn't. This guy's an unknown entity. Then the middle, where we kind of hit in the sweet spot after the Dimeback stuff, she eventually. She hits kind of the Batman Jim Gordon side, like she's working with a vigilante outside the law.
Right.
Still just bending the rules slightly, but not really breaking because she knows he's innocent. And then, of course, we get to this point now where she's far more on a path that very much follows Luke outside the law, where she's what we set up at the end with Misty is that she's on the path of becoming a PI, very much like Jessica Jones. She's on a path of becoming she's like a hair away. She didn't officially, because of where we're at with Defenders from the trailer, from what we can tell, she's still a cop, but she's very close to just completely.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the Defenders, like maybe even Jessica Jones has a role to play in her, maybe transitioning to a PI within the course of Defenders.
Yeah, exactly. Because honestly, the ending, just if I didn't see a trailer for Defenders, I would just say the ending, she became a PI because she's in the kind of costume she wears after she leaves the force. But it's kind of, based on that, it's kind of, so based on that, I'm saying she's like a hair away from, but she's definitely, we set up the PI path. She's disillusioned with the system. She's heading for kind of going outside the system like Luke and kind of going down like, take it, basically a non-drunken PI that we've seen in the Netflix universe. Okay.
And Misty is definitely one of the side characters from any of these Marvel shows that I'm looking forward to seeing in Defenders, because that's the fun thing about the Defenders is it's not just the main four heroes, it's also all the side characters from all these shows coming together as well.
And real quick, just speaking of like how great Simone Missick is, let's she had that great moment after the Shield scene ended, after like the Shield's worth 10, this worth the 10 is put on. It doesn't serve itself in Murdoch visions because it's silent, but the way she like quietly kind of weeps, it's so sad. Like that interrogation room lighting, really dark with like one light source. Like, oh god, your heart goes out for her.
Yeah, good stuff. All right, let's move on to the other side of the coin and Mariah.
Yep. She becomes Black Mariah this episode.
I mean, by all intents and purposes, absolutely, yes.
Well, she always was. I'm just saying now it's like she's kind of like assuming it's like the Kingpin kind of taking on the name. So
Exactly. I mean, this is definitely the most successful that we've ever seen a Marvel villain come out of one of these shows, right?
Again, it's Harlem Kingpin. It's amazing. It's cool.
Right. And like I said, for all the gravitas of Cottonmouth and then all the fun of Diamondback, this lady has truly been the main snake of the season all the way through, and her actions this episode really just kind of personify that dragon. I love the turn she's taken with the media, right? Like that 180 with, she's gone from early in the season kind of hating the media and wanting to speak out on her own.
Like Tembe Wallace, like that reporter kind of railroaded her, and now she's using him as her most powerful tool in the quiver when she's
100% weaponizing the media, which is great.
I think we see a really underhanded thing, in the midst of the fight, she exposes what happened to Luke, which of course in the end is responsible for him getting.
And she knew exactly what she was doing with that.
Yeah.
Too. Yeah,
because she improvised. She didn't have the file, so she improvised. And just again, it's so. And what she's doing on such a smart Kingpin level is that, well, okay, the hope was that they might kill each other, even if they don't. At least Luke Cage, he'll hopefully stay out of the affairs. But regardless, she now has insurance to make sure that Luke Cage is even if he wins this, which very much is looking like that's the direction we're going in. I can get him out of Harlem. I can get him out, and then it'll all be mine. And she gets what she wants. Oh man, it's so underhanded and despicable, but it's impressive.
And then I just love the image of when Luke's being let out. She's just given the interview, and she just gives the cheeky smile to Luke.
Yeah, and of course, there's that great kind of screw you scene, basically with basically that whole I won moment with Luke Cage she has at the station. Goes something like this, and so God, she's so fun and so evil in the scene.
The hero of Harlem. Congratulations. You are good for me.
You're not. What about our deal? Where's the file?
What file?
Just that babaya cracks me.
Kind of taking a page out of Diamondback's delivery book right there.
Yep. So speaking of Diamondback, Vermont here, it's interesting that unlike Diamondback, she plays her improvisations and her the whole Luke Cage file, the Carl Lucas file, very close to the chest.
Oh yeah.
And in doing so, of course, that's why she can kind of play the Candace thing to her advantage. It's unclear if, and I theorize that one phone call she was waiting for was to call Shades to do the deed. But then again, it's unclear when that happened. He might have just done that already. But regardless, I think she's putting in a call. Never mind.
I'm not entirely sure myself, so let's not.
Yeah, because I was just thinking of the timeline on that, because there's no way he could have done that.
They don't really they don't do an incredibly solid job of explaining the timeline. I will admit that much.
No, it's just assumed that just Shades did it because Shades had the phone, so he did it just when they left. So that's probably when it.
I guess what I'm kind of wondering is how much involvement Mariah had in the decision to do that.
Well, she knew about it because we know she was expecting it. So,
and I guess Alex did last episode. Alex brought up, we need to eliminate everyone who was in the room. You know what I mean? So
here's the reason I think that question can be raised, Tiki, is because we have this in this great acting off Woodard here, and this is kind of the arc we see with Mariah in this episode. Is that when she's in the interrogation room, honestly, the moment when she's waiting for the phone call, we see her at kind of her lowest point where she thinks she's caught because she knew she was going to get arrested. And it's a question of, did she know Shades was going to bail her out, which is kind of like a reward for her faith in Shades that Shades ultimately came through for. So it's a question of how much did she know, but she's awfully confident when Misty enters the room. Anything wrong with the phone call, dear?
Right.
Honestly, here's what I'm coming down. I think it's that she didn't know Shades came through for, but she knew the minute Misty was called out of the room, things were going to be in her favor. So that's what I think happened.
Okay, gotcha.
That's where I'm coming down on it. But again, speaking of that, one thing I want to highlight again was the great performance here is that when she is, what gets her to being full Mama May, what gets her to be fully, properly Black Mariah at the end of the series is this moment in the interrogation room where she gets away with everything scot-free because she initially, again, she's all panicked, fiddling with her earrings or anything, thinking she's caught, and then when she's backed into a corner with Misty in the interrogation, after she shows her like the evidence with Candace and everything, she shows her true colors, and like she is not like putting on the political prim and properness of it all. She's just getting really ugly and mean to her. And I like that. I love Woodard's not afraid to show that. It goes a little something like this here, where she's like really lets Misty have it. It's kind of petty, and it's mean.
You don't have to say anything. Just tell the truth. We're right here. McNeil, if you can help us damn shades and have it back, and maybe confirm some Cornell's contacts, we can make you stay. Cornell might fool around with them nasty ass bitches I use with TNA. You are going down. Go to trial with that flimsy ass shit. I dare you. I double damn dare you. Trick. Whatever. I don't.
So again, it just brings out an ugly side in her like that when she's backed into a corner. You know, it's not exactly
What's the
back
count
in
on
red.
that, Dragon? Is that 7?
No, it's 4.
Okay.
I'm not going to count some, like, I'm just going to count the curse words. I'm not going to count, like, kind of the implications of some of the other ones.
Gotcha.
A little kind of messy with that, and we're kind of entering a new Harlem Renaissance. I figure we'll let it slide.
Fair enough.
But speaking
I
of
love the double dog dare ya.
I love that. Yeah, you're right. That's great. And again, it's like much like Mom Mabel, she turns ugly on a dime like that. So again, that's her very much becoming what she's denied. And again, much like Luke accepting him being a hero, she's accepting that she's Mama Mabel who
yeah, she's like, all right, screw it. Like everyone wants to see the Mama Mabel come out of me. You're gonna see some Mama Mabel.
Yeah, it's almost like she's a more transparent Kingpin of Harlem, where we see how she earned her place. For Kingpin, he was just there at the beginning, and we understand as we go through. We get like not cryptic, but we get like illustrated kind of chapters from his story showing like how he could have done it. We don't see like how he built the infrastructure. We've seen with this whole season how she built her infrastructure.
Yeah, you're right. This whole season has essentially, again, Dragon, that mystical, 8-episode miniseries on the Kingpin origins.
Oh God, I'd love it. Again, I don't know if Netflix can swing it, but I'd love it.
Let's see.
And again, just looking where the last thing I have on is like where we end up with her at the end. Basically the crown bit with her at the end. It seems to me she's absorbed Cottonmouth's sin and fulfilled the destiny that he predicted for. That again has always been kind of laid out for as as the new Mama Mabel, as Black Mariah, who is rebuilding, and an emphasis on where she comes down the whole moving forward of it all. She's rebuilding. So by that, the club is being rebuilt. It's not just being abandoned. She's not getting rid of the history, but she's rebuilding it better, and she's changing things with the biggie picture. She's changing the biggie picture, moving forward as the new and the last remaining big boss of Harlem. We're going to see some new factions enter in Luke Cage season 2, but still she's kind of right now she's the top dog. She's the kingpin going to be met with some competition.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to some parlays and partnerships. Yeah. Let's see. I guess we shall start with Luke and Diamondback. Now, Dragon, this is kind of tricky because I feel like we already kind of went over a lot of this with the with Diamondback and Luke. So what else do we have to add to it?
Well, mainly kind of what's said during the fight. So with essentially Diamondback, he's very petty and Luke's coming at it as like a hero, making sure the fight's focused on him. He's being smashed into a bunch of cars, and Luke's is staying focused here. Diamondback, we do get yet again, and in addition to the flashback, we have Diamondback. We have Diamondback, kind of sharing some personal details throughout the fight. About like real personal stuff about Luke's mother. It goes a little something like this.
He never loved Adam. He was gonna leave your mother alive. Wait, you talking about your mom's Luke? You repping Harlem? You better put it on him, son. I'll take being a bastard over being a mistake any day of the week. Now the whole world is to watch you fall.
So I mean,
I just love
that's
how
kind of
it's
the
about,
last.
I love how it's about personal respect, right? Like, oh crap, he talked bad about Luke's mom. Oh god, now he's got to lay into him.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I love the Harlemites. They have no idea what their backstory is, but they're just
right, exactly, yeah.
like they have no idea what the actual connotation of that is. Just like he just said something bad about Luke Cage's mom, Luke, and it's great. You added one, right?
Oh, one? Okay, yeah.
And with that, I like that last detail we do get, because that's kind of the last line that Diamondback really has with Luke, essentially, where it's, I'd rather, he's kind of calling Luke on something that Luke himself was uncomfortable with, and I thought it was kind of interesting on the rewatch that Luke was the miracle child. He was the unexpected child that was born, and he's saying, hey, I'd rather be an illegitimate child than a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if they really, they don't have to explore this necessarily, but I wonder if this would ever be explored with the Luke Cage character. That, like, if we saw in, well, no, it wouldn't be in flashback, but I don't know. We see a portion of Luke kind of wondering, I've been, him being uncomfortable being the miracle child, having all the attention on him. I don't know, maybe going forward,
I think we've already kind of explored that with the, just with the background stuff. Like, like Luke kind of exposited that he was never really comfortable with that position. I don't know what else we need to really do with that.
Well, I mean, maybe like looking at himself possibly as a mistake, like Diamondback said, like when he got his power, like perhaps like if we ever had like a flashback to it, and we don't need any of this. I'm just saying, if we saw in a flashback, when Luke first got his powers and he's testing it out, and maybe he's a little scared by him at first, and he's kind of wondering, I was kind of this unexpected thing that came here, and ultimately is my purpose, was my religious purpose here to get powers and be kind of this figure, like, am I a freak? Like, what's going on here? That sort of thing. Again, it's a possible thing, but it's kind of like a nice, like, kind of last cutting line he has about the illegitimacy versus kind of the surprise birth.
Right.
And again, like I like that Luke mentally has won this fight. Where Diamondback, he's lost all logic, but he physically has the advantage. So that's kind of where they're ending up here, and Luke wins this battle, through his maturity.
Mm-hmm.
And let's see. And again, Luke is also getting an opportunity to unleash his frustrations with Diamondback initially when they are trading blows, and ultimately, again, as Luke tends to work things through very Zen-like manner, that's kind of what helps win him the fight. And what's really nice, and we'll get here. I'm not gonna play a thing necessarily here, but Luke inevitably he diffuses. He tries to diffuse Diamondback's hatred one last time. He tries to reach his brother one last time, and as we see, Diamondback he's set on his path. He's not going to let go. He's too far gone.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, let's move on to Misty and Mariah. Oh god. So yeah, again, Dragon, I'm sorry, I'm kind of like, we already kind of talked about Misty and then Mariah, so please, like, lead the way. Like, what do we need to break down further with these two? Because we already kind of talked about them individually.
So it's very interesting. It's a balancing act of certainty that we cover just a smidge. Again, they're both they both. There's like one of them is very certain going into the scene. The other one just kind of takes all that certainty away in a moment, though. That's how kind of clever.
It's almost, dare I say, like not not on the same level, of course, but the cockiness of Mariah is kind of like Heath Ledger Joker in some ways with the interrogation.
I think it's a bit of a stretch, but I could see it, I guess.
I mean, like I said, it's not like it's like, obviously that scene's iconic. Anyways, whatever.
So she sees they see through each other, and it's almost like a chess game in this interrogation room. She's putting up a strong front. Where I'd see it as a flawed Heath Ledger Joker, but yes, I'd see it as, but be a different, obviously a different take on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's like a very mental chess game, and the idea is they're kind of putting each other in check with this evidence, and Mariah's kind of pointing out, that evidence is so flimsy, it's never gonna hold up, and you got to question how much of that she's believing versus how much of that is just a front. And they're saying someone is like Misty is rooting for the system in that interrogation. She's rooting for the system to come through for, and basically like she's expecting like the end of a crime procedural in this scene. Like, hey, we're gonna end the season early, folks. I got Mariah. Let's go get drinks. And it's of course versus the pinnacle of corruption, of political corruption in Harlem. So it's kind of where we're at in terms of like kind of where the battle is there, and Mariah very successfully gets under her skin and revealing her true colors when she's put into check, as we saw in the previous scene. But Mariah having Candace killed just really send like the spiral. I think we were talking about the Candace of it all here, by the way. That's kind of
okay. Sure.
Yes, I mean just the revelation there. It's a really well kind of laid out thing where we see all right, it's great. So she sees the crime scene picture, and then she puts herself in the scene. She sees the picture on the phone of Candace's crime scene.
Mm-hmm.
Then she's putting it together. That makes it so much more vivid, and the blame is on her, which leads her to do something Misty's known for with Claire, where she burst into the she burst into the interrogation room, and she's really just kind of firing from the gut because she's just so disillusioned with the system, firing on Mariah, and Mariah is given all the arrows in the world in her quiver in this scene from all the weakness that Misty is showing. It's a power balancing act. That's what this whole scene is. It goes a little something like this.
Mm.
You're hysterical. You murdered her. You murdered Candace and you murdered Cornell. Enough is enough. What are you talking about? What's going on? Candace is dead. You stole my phone. I know it was you. You will say anything about me. Where's your proof? I loved my cousin Carl. And I would test that love against the recorded voice of a dead whore. And I'm still being charged with it. No. Not at this time. The other man killed Cornell. Diamondback in custody for some time. They were in bed. Keep him there. He is dangerous.
And right there we have this at the end there with Mariah. After she's won, she has this bit where she's showing that, hey, essentially. Sorry, do you want to say something?
No, go ahead. It's
Sorry,
fine.
I didn't want to. I don't really want to interject. Anyway, it's this bit where Mariah she's kind of like ushering in the New Harlem Renaissance with this bit where she says like, hey, you have the guy in custody. It's almost like kind of like a town justice system sort of thing. Like it's like a small town form of justice that, hey, you have the fall guy. It's like Romero putting the crown on someone for the greater good type thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way she's trying to spin it, even though it's like, hey, he did bad stuff, which is true. You got him. Well, I had some of my crimes on there. I mean, you can't get me for it, but you have your you can walk away not having bad press, but you're gonna know deep down I'm the guy who got away with it. So you should live with it for the betterment of Harlem. Let this slide so we can all coexist. That's because she's spinning it on her way out.
Right.
And just Misty, she's just completely, just very, very unhappy with that, and it's kind of. And she leaves with the power. Misty entered with the power. It's kind of back and forth there. Okay.
All right, let's get to Nurse Cage. So, Mike Coulter as the male nurse in the drama. Been over this.
Danny,
before.
where are my scrubs?
Yes. Okay.
Danny Rand, where are my scrubs? I need them right now.
Oh man. So yeah, Claire, very much kind of in the average citizen kind of role here. Of course, Dragon, it's very interesting with this episode. Most of it is kind of police procedural. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just kind of like the inner workings of what happens after a big event, like the battle between Luke and Diamondback. That's really where a lot of it's focused on, and so Misty definitely gets to kind of come in and. And I love how I'm sorry, Claire, not Misty. Claire gets to come in and sort of be the voice of this is just frustrating to watch. The formality of all this. I mean, have you guys not been watching the past 12 episodes? This dude's a hero.
Yeah. What's also kind of cool is like the direct after. I mean, this whole you're hitting on the aftermath quality of the episode, which is really cool, and it's a really gutsy choice. I'm so glad they went with. We'll get into kind of like what's so great about that later on, But I love the fact that Claire she's there in the aftermath, but also she showed up, and she very much is the reason Luke won that battle against Diamondback, because she had a very helpful piece of advice that kind of connected to who Luke was, and you're basically reminding him to, in a way, she ushered in the whole, a little backwards then to go forward. That's kind of what she ushered in there. Basically, Luke reached into his past to kind of find a solution to defeat Diamondback, which was very helpful, and it's this really sweet bit in their relationship where they're as is Claire. Even Claire's mother knows this. Good old Soledad Temple. She knows that Luke. She knows like how she looks when she talks about Luke, the love that's in her eyes. Like she's head over heels for Luke Cage, and he's head over heels for her. And it's this really nice moment where basically it's a really sweet scene where the two of them are walking in the aftermath after she kind of towels him off for the blood. And they kind of have a little conversation. It's really sweet. It goes a little something like this.
How did you know?
Or I hit him. Conditional. So I start feeding him hate.
It didn't work.
Sometimes you have to throw in the science.
You heard me say it.
Everything you say. Even when you don't speak. I'm still here.
Thanks for keeping mom safe, baby.
Man, Luke Cage, he's a smooth talker with the ladies. He really is. He just. And let's see. I love that the advice that she has is basically for Luke to be him. Is for Luke to be himself. She champions the element she loved most about his character. That out of all the Defenders heroes, he's the one that she needs to worry about least.
Right.
If he just remembers who he is, like he didn't go through an arc of wondering should he remain a hero or not. It's like convincing this guy that he's a hero.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So again, she's obviously, no pun intended, she is his most staunch defender.
Oh, I see what you did there.
If she steps up.
Of course, sets some things in motion leading into the Defenders, and like I said, Dragon very much fulfills her role quite nicely, not just through Luke Cage, but through all these Netflix shows. Just kind of she kind of just fixtures into everything and just kind of puts the pieces in place before she departs.
Certainly. And also, of course, we have the fun coffee innuendo coming back in a really great way.
Mm-hmm.
I was saying, when the whole police procedural aftermath, they're kind of hanging around eating Chinese food, and we have a really sweet moment between two of them here.
Want to get coffee?
You accuse me of not liking coffee. This is not true. It just depends on the blend. I hear that Cuban coffee is particularly robust.
That might be the corniest thing you've said yet. You also happen to be true.
Only Luke Cage could make a beverage seductive, and Howard Hamlin is insanely jealous of that.
Oh yeah.
Yes, he is. And again, just where we end on kind of Claire,
just sitting there like, and then Harry Osborn's like, it's okay, man. I'm still kind of irked at him for the
the amnesia.
Yeah, the amnesia joke. I'm still kind of peeved. We can be peeved at him together, bro.
It's funny if he came from Pie Lovers Anonymous.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's anonymous because of the amnesia thing. Everyone forgot where they were going.
Right.
But let's see. So again, just by the end with Claire, she's very unhappy with the injustice that Luke has endured, and she's venting her frustration as we kind of set up through martial arts. Let's say, she's kind of learning some self-defense, so she's not so reliant on the other Defenders. Again, she's taking a page from Luke's book, almost. Mm-hmm. It's a journey of she embarks on a journey of self-discovery like Luke did this whole season, which is kind of cool. She's kind of now taking on Luke's story, but for herself, which is going to probably take her through Iron Fist and Defenders. I think we're going to get a lot of payoff with Claire and Defenders.
Yeah, like I said, as I keep saying, I just hope that it's not a Clark Gregg style payoff, if you know what I mean.
Oh, then they might bring her back as Evil Hand Claire.
Oh God, that's exactly what I don't want.
Hey, I don't want that either, but you got to admit.
Hello, Claire.
Yeah, that would be hysterical. Being like an Elektra version of Claire buddying with the actual Elektra. Like they go shopping together. They hang out. They ice cream while they're killing the guy with the melon bowler.
And Rosario Dawson would just like inexplicably have a Greek accent.
That's what I'm saying. Just be fun hand gal pals.
Oh god. Oh god.
Then they'd kill Karen. Then they'd find Bullseye, kill Karen Page, and
No,
then they'd have like a trio.
Oh god.
Then they'd have like a trio going on. It'd be like,
oh god. Would Bullseye be like the gay friend?
no, he's just the implement of murder. No, he's just they bring her back.
Say, he could be like the tough, like the progressive, like tough, manly gay man. I don't know.
Oh no, I'm just saying, he's the one who kills her traditionally. So
Anyways, okay. So
Right,
after
moving
that
on.
tangent, okay, so let's get to Mariah and Shades.
Yes. So
I
they're
gotta
very
say,
strong.
Dragon, still not entirely in love with this whole pairing that we got. So I think it kind of comes a little bit out of nowhere for me personally.
Well, look, I can't speak for where it's going in season 2, but I'll say this if you don't like it now: is that you can write it off as a very simple, because the way it's acted, I think you can get away with this. Is that it's very much as like a power thing. It's like it's like the old adage, like nothing, what was the old adage? It's that. It's about sex and power. Basically, power doesn't. Sex is sex and everything.
I wish I could help you on this. But
yes, it's in House of Cards. It's used in a lot of things. Where basically everything revolves. It's like the old Freudian thing, where everything revolves around something except for the actual thing. Like there's sexes and power, and the only time, and power is kind of like sex. It's kind of the reversal. It's. Yeah. The point is, that's the thing. The takeaway is that. It's basically her signifying power and signifying this guy is her number 2, like with the picture, as a king and queen, basically signifying that she has, just like she's pumped with power and she's just kind of like, that's what the kiss signifies. If you want to look at it as like a non-romantic thing, just like her being, like a woman of power. It's kind of the idea. It's like
I kind of like looking at that in that kind of context more than I like the idea that these two have just been kind of like, they've just had these romantic feelings for each other the whole season, and now in the face of victory is the time to display those romantic feelings. I like the idea of the power thing more.
No, honestly, I could see it as the power thing, and honestly, you can couple the power thing with a relationship. But regardless, I think if there was, I don't think it's like a relationship.
Isn't it weird to me that it's just the age gap that bothers me with these two in terms of the relationship?
Well, I mean, I don't know how much.
Shades is more or less the same age as Cottonmouth, and
I want to say there's
like I'd say they're at least a good like 5 to 10 years apart.
I figure 8 to 10. Yeah, I figure about.
Yeah, and I don't know. Like that's not unheard of, but it's still a little bit unusual.
Like, I know it's not unheard of, but regardless, here's the thing though. I think what makes it play better, and the way I kind of read it, if it is a relationship, is that. I read it as it's the beginning of a relationship at the very end. She just took the initiative. Like, again, it starts something. Shades isn't exactly by it because he's kind of happy after it happens. But my point is the fact that I see the seeds that have been planted for like these two eventually being in a relationship. I'm not saying it was there the whole time. I'm saying it makes a lot of sense if they were to go in the relationship direction because he's the most staunch, again, very much a reflection of Luke and Claire. It's Shades and Mariah. That's kind of the unit they provide for each other. Very strong unit.
For sure.
Shades bailed her out of that jam, which again, you could read the kiss as like a thank you for bailing her out of the jam. But regardless, is that Shades is always there for her, and he's the one who showed her what she truly was at the end of the day. So because of that, the two of them are just kind of there is an undercurrent of like they're definitely really good friends. I think there's a lot there. So the escalation relationship doesn't bother me, but regardless, that's kind of where we're ending with them, is that they're consolidating power with that kiss. It's like they're ushering in the new monarchy of Harlem.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Shades considers all the angles, and this kind of like the fun little kind of trying to think of what the word I'm looking for here is kind of the power structure, I guess, where here's what the roles they serve. Shades considers all the angles and how things can trace back to people. Alex is now the political assistant.
Alex.
Yes, he's kind of taken on the political side of things that Mariah used to be fully immersed in.
Sure.
He's basically he's the view from the outside world, Mariah, so kind of reminding her like how she's looking to the grand
basically scheme. His her publicist in a lot of ways. You know what I mean?
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, he's the public relations guy. It's absolutely what Alex is. And of course, Mariah now she's the head. She's the head of this organization. She's the head and the bloodline. You know, for the like, you know, she's the bloodline for this new Harlem Renaissance, and very much she is now the only remaining folk tale in Harlem now. See, she's the only other like. She's the only story and lineage in Harlem now that Luke Cage is gone. No one's stealing her spotlight. She was the other big story to fear in Harlem of like, hey, the Stokes family's still around. Now Mariah's top of the food chain. Don't cross her.
Sure, very much so.
All right.
Okay, good stuff. Let's get into Pops Approves. It's time to find out for the last time what elements of the episode get a big thumbs up from Poppy. All I wanted was a thumbs up from Poppy, Carl.
There's a lot of really good stuff in this episode. I think.
Yeah, I guess the big thing, just that we've kind of been talking about, like I said, is the structure of it. How it starts out is, it starts out where we get that action beat kind of taken care of in the first 10-15 minutes, and it's a great action scene, but then the ballsy choice is not just having most of the episode take place in a police station and having it be a procedural type episode, but then also having just all things go horrifically bad for our main heroes and just go, just frustratingly right for our bad guys. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Just the build to that also. Again, on the whole, the editing is also really fantastic. Because again, as a scene I'm about to play for you folks, you're gonna have to use some Murdoch vision here. A scene that almost made it to Sweet Christmas for me was on the rewatch, I really liked the flashback. Basically the big showdown on the streets of Harlem. Basically, what it went to when Luke.
It works really well in terms of showing off the fighting style, showing off how Luke got the fighting style from Diamondback, and now he's using it against Diamondback. It cuts back and forth really, in a really effective kind of way with that.
I mean, the scene hits me in a lot of sweet spots here where, absolutely right. It's a flashback to the past. Again, him utilizing the past as Claire's kind of encouraging him in the fight to remember who he is. He's remembering who he is, which is definitely
who you are.
Exactly. And in doing so, he's remembering that boxing match that again Stryker trained him for, and it's it's fueling it. It's such it's a great payoff to those flashbacks first and foremost. It's so well edited because as the fight's intensifying in the present, we're cutting to what the fight when Carl was taking the beating then and when he's taking the beating now, and I love the strategy behind it all because again, he's not fighting one for a moral reason, but secondly, most importantly, he's biding his time because he knows he's going to run out of power. So it's hitting me all these great great spots on the second watch. So it goes a little. This is the abridged version of it, folks, but essentially this is what happens.
I'm not doing this anymore. You ain't done. Not for one of us is dead. You're more like that than you think. When I got shipped to Seagate, he called me must take you. I'm not paying for sins anymore. Neither should you. You want me dead? Then kill me. Do it. You ain't ready. Brother Jack, move! Keep moving, keep moving! Take the hit, let him get fired! You're right. Reap what you sow. Tell our brothers keep fighting.
it's such a fantastic sequence, and of course the answer to "Am I my brother's keeper," which of course was the big revenge endgame of Diamondback, to stand over Carl's body and the dead body and say, "Yes, I am." And I love that his response is no, because he initially thought he was, but he's realizing, no, I'm my own man. I'm getting past this silly revenge. I'm severing. In this fight, he's severing his ties to the past, but at the same time, of course, by the very end, he's going to accept a tie to his past, because he has to do that to go forward. So, it's hitting on such great levels here. But at the same time, I love the reoccurring lines, like these reoccurring phrases that have come through.
The reoccurring phrases are a great part of the writing of this episode. Absolutely, it's very, very sharp and clever the way they weave it in throughout the narrative.
Now here are the three, not counting a bit with Claire. Here are the main three that come back, and they're very important. They go throughout the whole season, but especially towards the second half, I've noticed. I've got you, which of course, Luke said to Misty, and then when Luke was in a bind after this fight, directly after this fight, the cops were now aiming their guns at Luke. She says, "I got you." That's an important one. Always is the phrase that's in the entire series. Always is stressed. Forward always, and again, even Diamondback saying always. Are you in my corner? Always, which of course holds a different context. Is he my focus? Always. That thing. It's like a vengeful always. And the one in this is like a oneer, but it's a good one. You ain't ready. And again, that's kind of the challenge of prove your heroism in that scene almost. He's not like, he doesn't want to challenge him to be a hero, but he's saying, like, you're not ready for this, and you still ain't ready. Pretty much saying, you learn nothing in the time between. Like, I don't respect you. I still don't respect you. And it's kind of like, that's the thing, that's the red for the bull in the arena. They're kind of using on each other. You ain't ready, because that was like a moment where the two of them were friends back in the day. And now it's taken on a different context. So yeah, really clever writing like that. And again, it's really well-edited sequence as well. And the full support of Harlem, everyone supporting Luke. We see a bunch of familiar faces in the crowd that we've established in the show.
Yep, for sure.
Fight takes place on Malcolm X Boulevard. That's cool. That's kind of a cool, added kind of message to it. And we've seen Malcolm X on the Luke in the intro as well, so it kind of built to that, kind of paid off there. A lot of smart payoffs like that. And it's now the new famed super battle in Harlem, second to the Incredible Hulk.
right. That Blu-ray guy is going to have a lot of business, I guess.
Yes.
4K footage.
Yep. The bootlegger. Yeah. Let's see. You have the emotional, and it very much is, as Mariah Dillard phrased it herself.
Fish, snakes, tigers.
Sorry. This one.
There's nothing less than a battle for the soul of Harlem.
Very much so. Luke could defeat Diamondback so easy, Tiki.
Well, gee, Dragon, why?
Because I'll play it for you.
Fish, snakes, tigers, I feed them all with great impunity.
Because he's got great impunity, Tiki. That's why.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. 70s Luke Cage.
Good old 70s Cage.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Of course, ending on the sacrificial yet admirable ending. That was a real powerful thing the episode had going for it.
Yeah, and like I said, not just that, but having the villain completely just walk away like, "Mwahahaha, we did it, all our dreams have come true, we're gonna seal it with a kiss." Yeah,
and of course, just as you said, Tiki, after the showdown of Act 1, I love that the following acts, Act 2 and 3 especially, they're more of they have like a thoughtful build to it, and it has an emotional payoff. So again, that's where, like, instead of building to a climax, because we got the climax out of the way, kind of like an Empire Strike Back thing. We have like an opening action sequence. Then we have like then we have kind of like the emotional, like, oh, we lost at the end. Let's see, the cops being pointed towards Luke, then eventually being won over. That was a good move.
Yeah, and just like I said, in general, kind of how it all kind of weaves together. Like I said, I love the Misty and Priscilla dynamic. How everyone's on the same page until just one domino falls over and tips all the other dominoes over.
Certainly. Speaking of the 4K guy, of course, just again the familiar faces in Harlem. I believe his name's Dave Griffith, not the actor, but the character. And I think the gag there was like supposed to sound like D.W. Griffith, the director.
All right.
The film, way back in the early day of film. That goes or something like this. Yeah, it's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Almost done here. I love, as always, and especially this episode with the hammer tech suit. I love the pseudoscience of this hammer tech suit because basically it's a threefold thing where it has a kinetic power source, which powers like that thing on his back, which distributes through the suit and importantly powers the gloves. That's why the gloves have super strength. So he has super strength because of the gloves that we have seen before.
Right.
The Judas gloves, which
it's the power glove, Dragon. Come on.
But also have Judas metal.
It's correct branding here. I know. Power glove is not the correct branding. I'm just being silly.
But I mean, seriously, it's like having brass knuckles of unbreakable metal on top of like the only thing on Earth that can hurt Luke. Judas metal on top of super strength powered gloves. And that suit doesn't.
It's almost kind of like the the cap shield in the form of brass knuckles.
In a way, yes. I mean, I also imagine vibranium, like otherworldly metals would hurt Luke Cage. Like honestly, I think Wakanda would actually pose a threat to Luke Cage. Honestly,
I could see that. I could say, that'd be Luke Cage going to Wakanda. Yes, please.
Like Black Panther versus Luke Cage. I mean, seriously, that one.
Oh God. Again, I really, really hope that someday we get that crossover appeal with Netflix and the MCU. We all need it, folks.
Anyways, I'm just saying, like the suit has those three pieces. The gloves that we've seen before. The green, the suit itself is bulletproof. So that's the suit. It's like he doesn't have super strength, coursing through him, but it distributes through the suit, like protecting him.
Right.
And of course, the headgears as well as additional protection. Honestly, you take away the headgear, it looks exactly like it does in the comics. But headgears,
but the headgear it works so well visually, though. It's
again, it makes sense, and that's the pseudoscience of it all. I'm digging so much, and the sound design again was such a great device. Of like we've heard that sound when he puts on the gloves, and now it has a logical. That's his flaw. That's his weakness, and that's awesome. Right. Though the full circleness of this last episode, that's the last thing I got here. The full circleness, of course, is very powerful. It makes it for a great finale, and it's
It also makes for I think Luke Cage is definitely one of the most satisfying binge watches of the Marvel Netflix stuff.
Because of that ending for me, absolutely.
Oh
yes.
yeah.
And yeah, again, it's the moving forward mantra. Yes.
What time is it, Dragon?
Sweet Christmas time is here.
I'm sorry. I should have asked you to ask me what time it is.
Yep. What time is it, Tiki?
Sweet Christmas! It's time to find out what moments of the final episode made us say, Sweet Christmas! Because redundancy is redundant. All right. So, Dragon, I believe we have a little bit of a sweet Christmas sandwich going on here. So you want to start with your bread, and then I'll get to my meat?
Sure. Boy, do I have some bread here for you.
Oh, you have delicious, freshly baked hummus bread. I don't know.
Tiki, I have the best kind of bread on the market. I have Emmy bread.
Oh, God.
Emmy bread. Kill for.
Does Jonathan Banks bake the Emmy bread?
I'd like to think so. Anyway, McKeon wasn't invited to breakfast, unfortunately.
Oh, God. Oh, poor McKeon.
So, seriously, folks, on the rewatch, I have two Sweet Christmas moments. One, because there was an obvious one, but it factors into the plot so much. You can probably guess what it is, but let's just say the other side of the bread or the Oreo cookie or the ice cream sandwich, however you want to look at it, is integral to the episodes. We have to talk about that throughout the whole thing. But importantly, on the rewatch, I was just so enamored by this. I mean, I knew it was in there. I just forgot how impactful and how beautiful a moment it was. Where essentially it's Mike Coulter's Emmy scene. Like if there's one scene that gives Mike Coulter the Emmy, like the deserved Emmy that he should have gotten, it's the scene in the police station where essentially
I'm not going to go that far just because there's a ton of competition with the Emmy.
That's fair. I'm just saying, let's say isolating this episode. This is his Emmy scene in the episode.
Sure.
Yeah, you're right. So many good moments. But this scene really, I mean, even after you hear it, you might want to give that a second look. It's really powerful.
It is. You're right.
This is a scene where Luke's winning over the police by, and again, the reason this really got me, and the reason it's on for Christmas, is I love the editing in this scene, how we have, and it gets me every time, the very ending with Pop, where it's this bit where, as Luke is basically describing, it's like a great Luke Cage reflecting on what he's done this season. Like he's accepting in this scene in dialogue. I am a hero. I'm accepting that. Whatever you call it a hero. That's what I am because I had to do that. I had to step up and do that. He's discovering it as he's saying it in the scene. And it's beautiful acting in terms of editing. It's great how we see like him walking triumphantly through Crispus Attucks, and we see him walking down the street in that bullet-ridden suit, which is such a great episode 5. And
again, it's something that just makes the whole just very satisfying end to a binge watch of the season. You know what I mean?
Exactly. I mean, this scene and again. These two Christmas scenes for me were the scenes like I binge watched the whole season for just to get to these two scenes, honestly.
Right.
And of course the Method Man scene from the previous episode as well. So again, all the stuff towards the end. And again, it's just this, and we see the cops being won over, and they're really like the ones who are like very anti-Luke Cage, just kind of not knowing, and they're hearing his story, hearing how passionate he is, and we see what Luke has learned from Harlem, and it's beautiful. Like him accepting Harlem as his home. Goes a little something like this. I'll let Coulter do the Emmy talk.
Why didn't you just come to me?
I didn't know you. I stayed out of it.
Until you were right in the center of it.
They killed Pop.
They did.
I couldn't just lay in the cut anymore. Pop knew about my abilities. So I put them to good use. I shut down Crispus Attucks personally.
It wasn't your job.
People needed someone that didn't require a warrant or a shield to get things done. Vigilante or a superhero. Call it what you will, but like it or not, I finally accepted that someone had to be me.
Maybe I could have helped you.
This burden is bigger than you or me. People are scared, but they can't be paralyzed by that fear. You have to fight for what's right every single day, bulletproof skin or not. You can't just not snitch or turn away or take money under the table because life has turned you sour. When did people stop caring? Harlem is supposed to represent our hopes and dreams. It's the pinnacle of black art, politics, innovation. It's supposed to be a shining light to the world. It's our responsibility to push forward. So that the next generation will be further along than us. Pop said his mantra aloud twice a day. Kids in the shop were pissed. They could never unhear it. Never backwards. Always forward. Forward.
Always. You forget I grew up around the dance. I wish I could have been it. In a way you have.
Oh God, that's beautiful. This is the end there.
When you see Pops on screen one last time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh God, it's so beautiful. Oh,
I mean, they really stretched that mantra out to its limits, Dragon, for the effectiveness of the story, but they did such a good job with it.
I know. I mean, it hits home. And the fact that he's become the new Pops, that's so beautiful. All he needs is the hat, and then he's there. That's all he needs. Oh God, I'm getting all weepy. Go on with your moment. Set it up.
Okay, folks. So my main moment is the Claire and Luke goodbye. It's just for a very simple reason, kind of what we've been talking about. I just love the book-endishness of it all. How, they say goodbye in kind of uncertain terms, and, they pull the, I don't know, Dragon, I'm just a sucker for, the corniness being reversed. Like I said, it's such a good kind of, it's such a good kind of bookend for what Claire and Luke have gone through and what they mean to each other. So go ahead and play the clip.
I just love that that's their, I'm sorry, you'll wait on it later.
Yeah, play the clip.
Like I said, I know a really great lawyer in town. I'll call him.
Okay. Be careful.
Always.
You're so corny.
So yeah, it's just like I said, it's really simple, but it's really effective. Also, tying Daredevil in, we know where that's going to go. That's kind of just a very, very natural way to work in Daredevil, of course. Yeah, not too much to say about that. But then, of course, that also leads to another reaction from Luke later on.
It's a long trip. You want something to drink? I'll set up something hot. Dark. That's that. Let's stop for coffee at Dunkin' Donuts before we reach. Ain't the same. Let's just get this over with.
Dunkin' Donuts never could measure up to Claire Temple. But yeah, that scene though, I love.
I just
that
love the
like,
sweet. I love the sweet Christmas.
you're right, and I'll say this on the rewatch. I don't know if it just didn't occur to me again. It's been a while. I love the fact that was a motif with them. The whole like be careful always. You're so corny. The fact that came back and Luke had that. They had almost like it's a very bizarre. This is a very bizarre example, but it's kind of like the whole no following from Iron Giant. It's sort of that thing. It's like hey, no following, then it comes back, and it's like
I can see that. I can see that. Yeah,
but you see what I mean? Though
it's in a much different context, but yeah, you're right. It's kind of played in a similar context or in a similar fashion.
It's really, really sweet kind of ending moment with those two, and just it's heartbreaking, but so endearing. And the fact that that's been built up, I think, just it's a great end for that.
For sure. All right.
For speaking of endings, for me, there was no doubt in my mind that the best moment of this, one of the great, again, especially if you binge it, one of the best things about the first season of Luke Cage is the end, the very end, and it's a great sequence. It really is, and there wasn't a doubt in my mind going into this episode that it would not be My Sweet Christmas. It was so good we had to tack on another because this alone, I mean, you have to have it on there. Mm-hmm. And it's the fact, sincerely, it's that one. It's such a well-edited sequence. I mean, this and the speech, I think, are probably the most well-edited moments. So the speech, and the
fight.
Yeah, those are the three most well-edited sequences in this episode. The editing's just flawless in this episode. And this end payoff, like the whole season, we end on 100 Days, 100 Nights being sang in the club. Of course, our recurring set piece, and the fact that we go to the club explaining, okay, why are we hearing music all of a sudden? Again, we're way back where we were in the beginning of the show. This is basically the great full circle ending of Luke Cage. That just, like, after this episode, it's like, oh my god, it went so full circle. It's beautiful. It's such a work of art right here. It really is. And we're setting up everyone visually during this montage. We see basically we're seeing where we leave our characters, where we're kind of setting them up for going forward. We have like a really triumphant moment with Bobby Fish, where Bobby Fish, kind of the last remnant of Pop, just cleaning up the shop. He kind of finds something to help Luke out, which is really nice. We have the consolidation of power, with the replacement of the Biggie photo. We got Claire, the old tease of the next Netflix show. We had all this great stuff.
Oh yeah.
And Misty inside the club, again, further explain why we're inside the club, and the fact that Luke, and the thing I got to hit here is that, and basically this puts the thing we've been talking about into dialogue with Luke here at the end. As he's going out, as the song is playing, the very ending of it, where he's saying, as he's being, again, so visually well directed too. I love that we have like this wide shot and we see him inside the car.
I love how it almost kind of like it's almost Luke breaking the fourth wall with the audience at the last moment in a way. You know what I mean?
Almost, yes, almost. I see that, and then it's so great. It's like he was just at home in Harlem, and now he's being taken away from home. It's the fact that we're seeing him, and it's so well directed. He's being pulled from Harlem. We see all the up close stuff with the other characters, and then from the distance, we see Luke driving away from Harlem. I love that we spend time seeing him being taken from Harlem, and it's a bittersweet moment where he's moving forward in the grand scheme. So he's at peace with it, but at the same time, he doesn't want to go, and it's. I love the crowd cheering at the end of the song. At the end, the fact that we're still seeing this.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good touch. Yeah,
so picture that with the Murdoch vision, folks. Picture that, and then Luke just having this beautiful delivery by Mike Coulter, like the last line Luke has in the show.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's like they're cheering for Cage. It's like it's us, the audience. That's the fourth wall of it all. We're cheering for Cage and the show as they are cheering.
Well, yeah, and also the fourth wall of it all is also kind of Luke, talking to the camera, you know, sort of being like, you know, kind of expositing the message that we should take away from the show as a whole.
Sure.
Okay. All right, Dragon, let's get to the penultimate segment of the final episode. It's time to one last time connect the bullet holes.
There's going to be a lot here because, of course, we also have like Luke Cage season 2 teases. So.
Oh yeah. So I guess the most obvious connection is Daredevil.
Certainly, you know, I know a very good attorney, and of course, we really set that up at the end where she says it very emotionally because now she absolutely wants to get Luke out of there.
Right.
You know, Luke becoming Pops, that's another one we kind of been setting up from the beginning.
Of course, all the things we set into motion, as you said about season 2, like Diamondback is getting the full scale, like, I'm going to be Luke Cage. I'm not just going to dress up as Luke Cage. I'm going to be Luke Cage. Yeah. And then, of course, Mariah and Shades in their position of power and everything, Misty being disenfranchised. I bet all that's going to kind of come back into play.
Shades killing Candace, which is very well shot, by the way, when we can cut through Shades kind of really discreetly killing Candace. You know, using the phone that Misty lost. I love that it was such a small, innocent mistake that in all the chaos she lost her phone and Shades picked it up, and that's what, you know, killed that poor girl.
Right.
The Trigger Happy Task Force and police being won over, you know, we kind of paid that off and continued that.
As we already mentioned, there's just a metric ton of like great dialogue that gets cycled back around in this final episode. The always thing, the you're so corny, just all of it is just really good.
Let's see if we had a bit of a tease at the origin of Sweet Christmas. We don't know where it first came from, but it's mentioned that he's been saying Luke has been saying Sweet Christmas, and he possibly got it from his father. He's been saying it ever since.
Like, I'm guessing, based on the sounds of it, it sounds like Sweet Christmas is like when Carl wants to swear, but he knows he can't. You know, like in the presence of his father.
I would bet on that. I'd bet on that being the origin. We have a tease out of here. You know, get a few of these ready.
1, 2, 3. Switch it up. See that shit coming from a mile away. Stop cursing at me. Now you sound like your old man. Don't start with that Sweet Christmas shit.
Yeah, again, sound like maybe he got it from his father too, possibly.
Could be. Yeah.
There's a chance. Again, the one good thing we get from him.
Right.
Okay, let's see. Of course, we got the bootlegger. You know, we have Griffith here, where he's just kind of giving. I like that he have two moments with him at the beginning here, where you know is the beginning. He's like, get your 4K camera and throw out the thing he's shooting the altercation because he has basically a Hulk fight on his hands, and later on he's just saying, hey, you know, give him some privacy, go a little something like this.
Right.
You know, he's a paparazzo with class.
Yeah,
very much. He's like it's a paparazzo with class. He's a filmmaker before he's it's like a news hound.
I think that's what it is. He fancies himself a filmmaker. That's a good term. Yeah.
Maybe you have a 4K camera. I think he's shooting it. He's not like like selling it necessarily.
Oh, sure.
Well, we know he's selling. He's not selling a shoddy product.
Right.
Okay, let's see. The barbershop is in shambles, and most likely will be turned into something else, possibly a Heroes for Hire office.
Oh, God, that would make me happy.
Of course, goes a little something like this. Here's the setup here from good old Bobby Fish.
Looks like this place is going to be a barbershop anymore. Maybe not. But whatever it is, it's going to be famous. We're going to be talking about what went down here for years.
Think about it. One of these days, we're going to have a scene like this.
Me and Iron Fist for 2 seconds from Tuesday to knocking you in the next week.
One of these days.
Oh man! I'm so delighted by these clips.
70s Cage, folks. 70s Cage.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's see now. Claire taking on martial arts from Colleen Wing. That's going to be very important. She took a little flyer, which we clearly saw Colleen Wing. Now, Colleen Wing is a twofold reference here because one, Colleen Wing, as we know, is in Iron Fist, and she has a pretty big role in Iron Fist, but also in the comics.
It's probably the best single thing about Iron Fist.
She is honestly, she's really good. Yeah, Colleen Wing, she's very. She starts off really strong. That's the thing. Colleen Wing has a really great introduction.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Also, I mean, the other thing with Colleen from the comics that Colleen Wing this factors in the Heroes for Hire, by the way. Colleen Wing and Misty Knight become really good pals, and they're kind of like they go into, if not Heroes for Hire, then they're in the private eye business together. Like they work together on cases, and then eventually that gets lumped into Heroes for Hire.
I could see that developing within the Defenders, because I know that both Colleen and Misty are going to be kind of pivotal side characters within the Defenders.
It's kind of interesting, and I doubt they're going this way. Just we based on the fact that we've shaked things up in the Netflix universe, but never say never. The fact that in the comics, Iron Fist ends up with Misty Knight, notably. And just the fact we kind of went in a different direction with Iron Fist, with him and with him and Colleen. But at the same time, though, we had Jessica Jones and Luke Cage together for a while, but then things
exactly.
It's unclear. So you never say never, but it won't kill if they go in a different direction. Let's see.
One last thing with the barbershop is that if the barbershop does in fact become the what was that? Sorry. There was like this weird alien sound out my window. If the barbershop does become the Heroes for Hire headquarters, that will kind of go along with our whole thing of, we love how this show does these these like locations, like Luke Cage is built upon these locations, and Jessica Jones, it was the bar, and this, it was the barbershop.
Yeah. I'm really hoping Defenders, we have at least 4 episodes that go to 4 different locations. Like we go to the barbershop for one, we go to Jessica's alias investigations for one, we go to Nelson
right.
To we go to the dojo or Rand Enterprise.
I have a feeling, at least in the early episodes, it's going to be a lot of jumping around, and I don't think the Defenders are all going to be together from the get-go. That's just speculation.
Well, no, I'm saying we go at least visit these locations, But also, here's a little theory just about Heroes for Hire real quick. If the barbershop doesn't turn to Heroes for Hire, there is a slim chance, slim being the operative word, that Nelson and Murdoch could become Heroes for Hire.
Like the building, the office space?
I'm saying it's possible, yeah. I'm saying because Nelson Murdoch was on the outs at the end of Daredevil Season 2 because, they were shutting down the office. This might be a way of keeping it open.
Yeah, I'd be down for that.
I was saying it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's set in stone. Okay, let's see real quick. Okay, of course we took down the Biggie picture for the King and Queen painting for Shades and Mariah pulling. Yep. Okay, big one. Noah Bernstein. So we know Noah Bernstein is going to be a big player in Season 2 because of what he's doing here with Diamondback.
Of course.
Experimenting on Diamondback, if not turning him into another Luke Cage and something worse than Luke Cage.
We'll see.
Let's see. Luke going to Seagate for essentially for Defenders, because we're gonna link up with Luke at the beginning of Defenders from this kind of fate that he's kind of found himself in.
Of course.
Most likely, if I were to be a betting man, I'd figure he goes to Seagate. Claire's going to call Matt, as per the kind of setup of this episode, to get him out, as well as the file that the file on Carl Lucas that could exonerate him, that Bobby finds. Basically, it's probably going to open with Luke's in prison. Matt Murdock shows up with the evidence file. And basically, we're getting you out of here. That'd be my guess. Okay, I guess lastly, all I got is the Harlem Noir novels, because we know Luke liked to read those, and I like that they came back in the last episode again, going really full circle with it all. Basically the novels about kind of crime conspiracies in Harlem. Then they mentioned Chester Himes, Michael Connolly, Harry Bosch, who by the way has a show now on Amazon Prime. So if anyone wants to know more about kind of what these Harlem novels
is that show just Bosch? Because I've heard of the show Bosch.
That's based on a book from one of these Harlem Noir novelists. So basically, it sounds like that's kind of in the neighborhood of what these books are like.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, Titus Welliver, the guy who was almost Dr. Doom back in the Roger Corman Fantastic Four days. He's
sure
plays the main guy. Okay.
All right, Dragon. So for one last time this season, let's switch the open sign to closing time and give our final thoughts, not just on the episode, but as a season on a whole. So I will go first, Dragon. For the episode, this is just, kind of an unconventional approach to a season finale, very much outside of the style of the other 3 season finales that we've gotten so far, where basically, you know, it's like the villain has been defeated and the hero's triumphant and we're at a personal high point in their lives. And, you know, this is basically the opposite, even though Diamondback is, you know, under for now. Even Diamondback gets a happier ending than Luke does, you know what I mean? Because Diamondback's going to be, you know, he's pretty much getting exactly what he wants.
Which is...
I could just hear Diamondback just like in a state of like amnesia, just like, or anesthesia, I should say, like, you know, like about to be put under, like, I'm Luke Cage. I'm Luke Cage.
Here's how we're gonna open season 2. I don't think we should actually open season 2 at least, but imagine this: Diamondback, he wakes up and he's just like, you instantly know Bernstein shoots him in the face, and the fact is it bounces off because now he's bulletproof and he goes into a oh what a bulletproof morning, oh what a bulletproof day. You know, he's so happy and over the moon because now he's Luke Cage. I'm Luke Cage.
All right, but yeah, like I said, just a very unconventional way to end the episode. Great kind of drag out action scene followed by, you know, really personal procedural stuff. Very interesting choice. Now, as far as the season as a whole, Dragon, I gotta say, just rewatching it, and of course, kind of our mission statement for the second half was to see how well it held up. And while I do think that the first half of the season is slightly stronger, I think the second half of the season pulls itself up rather well. I think, to me, the only really dull episode was probably, I want to say it was episode 9, Dragon, the one where Luke is mostly...
yeah, you're thinking of 9.
For the count. Yeah.
And to be fair, that one has the Jessica Jones. Basically, all of them are kind of good standalones, except that one, which is kind of a Jessica Jones. This is a part of it that, you know, it's reliant on 10. You need to connect the 10 to fully enjoy the episode.
Exactly. But honest to God, Dragon, I really do think that this show, this season, might not be a popular opinion, but for me personally, this is the best season of Marvel Netflix stuff that we've gotten. It's a close call between this and Daredevil season 1. But I think for Daredevil season 1, like, while it took a little while for Daredevil season 1 to really get going for me, this one just right out of the gate, like the first episode was so great. You know, just like right out of the gate with, we get Cottonmouth right away. We get the death of Pops. We get all this, all this intricate storytelling just right in the first couple episodes that just really pulls you into the world, pulls you into the characters. Of course, the character of Luke goes through this beautiful arc. You know, we get a lot of great kind of full circle qualities to the storytelling. So, yeah, even though, like, Daredevil is probably still the best adaptation, right? Like, that's, like, all the way through Daredevil season 1 is just pretty much the perfect way to do a comic book story in a season. But I don't know, and with the music of Luke Cage, too, just the style of it, the music, the culture, as we've been kind of going over with our Harlem segments, just the emphasis on the setting. I really think Luke Cage, there's just a special flavor to Luke Cage that really is unmatched with any of the other Netflix shows. So, yeah, for me personally, it's the best time I've had watching one of these seasons.
All right. So for the episode itself, for me, I thought this episode was very smart. It's a very smart finale that could have been just a brawl, but thankfully had a lot of character behind it. It very much felt like, a proper ending for Luke Cage. Again, as we say in the intro, it's a very representative. The show is very representative of its character, and that's what you want. It ended like Luke Cage. It had its dignity in the end. But the fact that it had so much character behind it, even when the action stopped, we were still invested in our character and kind of the stuff he went through. It made it so true to Luke Cage, and I appreciated that so much. So well edited. The action's cool. Honestly, I just love seeing, in that action scene, I love seeing like Luke and Diamondback getting smashed in the cars. I mean, you got a lot of great action, but at the same time, all the thought-provoking character that was behind it. It's spectacle and its development. That's the mixture you want with Luke Cage. It delivers constantly. On the whole, for the season, I think it's it's a very great different show of the Netflix series with a very distinct style. Now there are a few things, and I just looking at it on the whole here, is that there are a few things that I understand. I don't feel this way. I understand that you either grab people or don't, and I can see, I can understand. That's why people would might go for the other ones over Luke Cage, because it's only an
I
opinionated
don't
thing.
think anyone's going to go for Iron Fist over Luke Cage, to be fair.
Well, again, I've heard some surprising opinions, but I mean, again, that's everyone's opinion, but I personally would not be one of those people. Anyway, objectively, the show is solid as Luke's skin, as Luke's bulletproof skin. I mean, the show's fantastic. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But I'm just saying, the fact that it took risk, and not objectively, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm saying on a whole, collectively, some people may not love it, or some people, it just might not be their taste. But it's a great show.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be really critical, again, if you just want to really kind of split hairs, I'd say episode 9 is the weak one. But again, it coupled with 10, it's the whole season's just bulletproof. Again, coupled with 10, it's fully great. Again, it took risk. It was very faithful to the source material, and it wore it on its sleeve, which is a big quality of the show. I really got to applaud every which way, because again, just like we owned so many over the top things. Like, again, he was like the verbose over the top of comics in terms of what era Luke Cage came from. It's like, we have like all the fun, reflective terms of black exploitation at the time, like all this, like, sucker, or or sweet sister. We worked that in there. We made it work.
Sure.
And if the sorry, and if that change wasn't, and here's the only thing I'll say against the reason this doesn't. The only reason this doesn't surpass Daredevil season 1 for me, because one, I have a lot of attachment to Daredevil season 1, but at the same time, I would still argue any day of the week, Daredevil season 1, I have all the Netflix shows. It's perfect. There's not a thing wrong with it. And I still,
like I said, the only thing with Luke Cage is that I feel like Luke Cage kind of starts stronger out of the gate than Daredevil season 1. Does that make sense?
I get what you're saying, but I disagree with it. I get it, though. I understand, but here's the thing I'm saying is that if that change, and basically if the change in sorry, I was trying to make sure I got it here. Basically, if it's kind of a very brief twofold thing. It's like, what if basically if that notice, and like we kind of change our story here, we kind of change from Cottonmouth to Dimeback. I'm not saying either or is like inferior to the other. I'm just saying that they're both good, but there is a very apparent divide. If that divide wasn't as apparent, and the fact that you have that subjectivity, so that some people might not like the show for certain choices it made. Again, some people don't like all the music choices. Some people, it doesn't affect the show at all. Again, some things, like, it may not be your TV like everyone who watches kind of standard TV, it may not be their jam, because it's kind of a great cross between an HBO show and a TV show. Network show, and being its own thing there. So if that subjectivity and that one kind of that divide in like the season, if that wasn't apparent, then I'd say there's a very good. It's right now it's between Daredevil season 1 and Luke Cage. I think that's where the best quality of all the series is right now. So it's overall really great, really rewatchable.
And it's been quite a while since I've rewatched Daredevil season 1, so that's also a fact.
Yeah, I rewatched it just finished rewatching it a couple of days ago. And again, I'm still head over heels for Daredevil season 1. Again, we rewatched all Luke Cage here, and it's really. They're toe to toe with Daredevil, just like in that perfection, just kind of carries Daredevil like the last couple percent, I guess.
Oh,
right.
Okie dokie then. Well, folks, it's time to sweep up and sew the bullet holes till the next season of our journey. And in the immortal words of Henry Potter, the past is the past, and the only direction in life that matters is forwards, never backward.
Forward, always.
Holy blaxploitation movie, Batman and Shaft. Not Shaft, Luke Cage. Nick Cage? Well, you sure have gotten it hand since Ghost Rider, huh? Not Nick Cage, Luke Cage. Power Man.
Dragon, you know what I just realized?
Yeah?
We didn't count the swear jar.
Do we still have time?
Yeah, we still have time.
Oh,
yeah,
thank goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that would have been a whole lot of effort wasted, right?
Yes.
Okay, so my previous tally from the first 12 episodes was at 163, Dragon, all right? 163. A lot of foul language going on, so let's see what the last episode gives us. Let's see, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right, 10 swears this episode, which brings the grand total of swears for the season up to 173. And I think I think with that number, we better just go up to the sink and wash our mouths out with soap. Yeah. All right, Dragon. So why don't you play us out with who's the name of the show? This character on the show. Like, who are we talking about?
I'm so glad you asked because I just happened to remember, and so a friend of ours helped remind me.